Sematary, Butcher House, album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this new album from Sematary, one of the more niche names in hip-hop right now, fresh out of the Haunted Mound crew. It's Sematary. You may know him from his unique appearance. He loves his True Religion jeans and he carries around his box cutter. Or you may know him from his signature sound, which is not for everyone. It is a monolithic blast of classic horrorcore, some modern trap thrown in, definitely some Chief Keef worship as well as some black metal influences from time to time, all sewn up together in a nice little bow of Dat Piff era mixtapes with all the DJ drops you could ever ask for. It is certainly a vibe, and if you don't like it, I don't blame you. It's certainly not for everyone. Hell, for many years I wasn't feeling it either. I mean, when his Rainbow Bridge album came out and people started turning their heads, I certainly liked some tracks here. Tracks like Bunny Suit and Shotgun I thought were great, but at the end of the day, I felt like Sematary didn't push his sound far enough. I had a lot of the same feelings on Rainbow Bridge 2 as well. Tracks like Red Mist and Skeletons, Not Skeletons, were fantastic, and I really enjoyed them quite a bit. They were on a lot of my workout playlists. But the album as a whole, I felt like once again wasn't pushed far enough, and at the end of the day, the album just kind of came off a little one note in my opinion, which leads me to Rainbow Bridge 3. Now, I may be in the minority here, or the majority, depending on how you look at it, but I actually really loved this thing. This had all the elements of his first two Rainbow Bridge tapes turned up to 11. No, you know what? Screw it. Even higher, because this album will melt your headphones. There were nods to black metal, some of his most over-the-top lyrics and ridiculous performances of his career, as well as DJ drops from the one, the only DJ Sorrow, laughing through the pain. My God, is this tape good. I mean, once again, it is not for everyone. I mean, God, it is not for everyone, but I think it's a blast. Now, his last project, 2021 Screaming Forest, I had really mixed feelings on. On one hand, tracks like Redwoods and Hockey Mask, I think they're some of the best tracks he put out. But then I heard tracks like Karma Crazy and Longhorns, and these were some of the worst tracks he had put out. The consistency wasn't there. This tape was very short and concise, but it just didn't run like an album to me, or at least not something that I appreciated from start to finish. Which leads me to his latest album, Butcher House, which, you know, it's not that bad. As a matter of fact, it's pretty decent overall for a Sematary tape. It's one of his more consistent albums, and it's a whole lot better than Screaming Forest in my book. This album starts off with Haunted Mound Reapers. This one is featuring Hackle, and right off the bat, baby, we're back. We're right back into the little old world of the Haunted Mound. And when I first heard this track as a single, I was kind of lukewarm to it, but it's grown on me quite a bit, and I actually think it's a bit of a banger. I love the booming beat and these ridiculous one-liners that on any other rap album this year would be completely ridiculous, but right now they are home. Especially when Sematary is putting on his southern drawl. Where are we and why are we there? Not pissed about it though. But I can lift some freaking weights to this, man, and Hackle's performance is fired up. This is a great start. And I don't know about you guys, but I think Babayaga is the best track here by far. This beat alone is absolutely absurd. It is so scuzzed out, so booming. It sounds like it's just gonna rip through your speakers or your headphones, and then you get to Sematary's verse, and it's one of his most intense and in-your-face and fired up verses here. His energy, the sheer absurdity of everything, this is the perfect balance for him. The samples, the lyrics, if you see me on the bench press with this track pumping through my headphones, steer clear. Then we have Suffer featuring Buckshot, and in the past, I've always enjoyed these two together. And this is no different. I love the campy beat. These synths are just ripped out of a classic horror movie. It's right where I want to hear this. I love how rough around the edges this sounds. And Sematary here honestly sounds at his most dangerous, and that's where I like to hear him. I mean, this may be like paint by numbers for the guy, but if that's the case, He's making this sound really pop still. And the beat switch for a much noisier and disgusting beat in the second half is done really tastefully, believe it or not. And Hate and Gasoline is really great too. Even though I feel like this is one of the tracks here that will definitely alienate some listeners. I do like the riff here, and we get a slightly more melodic track from Sematary, which will alienate some, as well as his sung vocals that don't exactly come off too pretty. But the aesthetic overall works. This seems to me like a natural fit. It's just not too big of a leap. It's just a natural leap, I feel like. And some of the lyrics here, I mean, they're completely ridiculous, but if you're listening to this album, then you know who you're dealing with. I dig this. Here's the issue with this album, though. While a lot of the material here is actually pretty decent, it's quantity over quality. Like In the Field Where I Found You, early on in the album, this just gets me out of my rhythm. Sematary's music in general is like an attack on all 5 of your senses, finding a 6th sense somewhere and attacking that too. But this track just sounds like overkill. It's the kind of track that I feel like he's just trying to push so much into one, and I just think he just tries too much. The synths just come off annoying. This beat is just dime a dozen. The melody here is one of the most half-assed. Then we have Hallowed Be Thy Wrist featuring Sick Boy Rari, Turnabout, and Hackle. And this is a big old haunted Mound posse cut at the end of the day. And on paper, that sounds like something I want to hear. But if that's what we're getting, I'd rather them steer clear of this. This instrumental is easily one of the sloppiest here, and everything else around it just kind of fizzles out because of it. And was I expecting something pristine? No, God, no. I mean, I like Rainbow Bridge 3, but this just sounds bad. Like, really bad. Like, if this is happening, if this is your posse cut, keep it on the shelf. We Don't Dial 911 is also really sloppily thrown together. This track is obnoxious on so many levels. I mean, lyrically, this feels like one of his most thrown together pieces, and this obnoxious chorus seems to go on and on forever. Like, at its core, this sounds like a decent Sematary track, but one that just got left out in the sun for way too long. The result actually kind of gave me a headache, and that's the only time this happens on this album, which is shocking. But Burn a Cop Car is even worse. How are both police statements on this album so limp? This is one of the most lame, repetitive, and obnoxious tracks here. If you told me that Sematary put more than 50 seconds into planning for this track, you could have fooled me. And Go Dig My Grave has a lot of potential. I mean, I do really like the very hazy, psychedelic, otherworldly sound to it. That's something that I wish he would kind of tap into a little bit more. Because this track is pretty far out at its core, but the result is kind of a mishmash. This beat is obnoxious, and the synths in the background do nothing. They just really just get on my nerves. As far as a coherent thought, this is far from it. As far as a Sematary album goes, it's certainly one of his better ones, but I don't think he's reached the height of Rainbow Bridge 3. This album is fine. Smokin' Out the Grave is pretty great, though. I mean, this track is a muddy, murky, disgusting mess, but in this case, it actually works. Like, there are some things on this track that I cannot say no to. The massive beat and Sematary's incredibly looming, just overpowering performance. For Sematary, I feel like this track just works all around, and instrumentally there's so many little details that stick with me, like the hypnotic hi-hats and the really hypnotizing synths work. Not only that, but the stripped down portion that we get towards the end is pretty great as well. Angelmakers featuring Turnabout is really great too. This is one of the bulkiest and most explosive tracks of the bunch. And that's a good thing, because this is one of the most massive, explosive, ear-melting tracks here. Like, if you liked Rainbow Bridge 3, you need to give tracks like this a listen. It's a constant onslaught, and that goes for both Turnabout and Sematary's performances. They're both on top form here. It is a dizzying track, but an absolute banger. And Little Lamb, as a finale, will alienate some fans, but I kinda like it. It is a fairly somber, tear-soaked trap ballad, which I did not expect to pop up on this album. No, I did not have this on my bingo card for this evening, but it still is a Sematary track at the end of the day, with the ridiculous lyrics, the booming beat, and all of the DJ drops. But for a new flavor from the guy, I don't hate this. I can see it getting pretty crappy really quick in the future, but for now, I'm okay with this as a finale. Overall, I do like most of this album, but it's quantity over quality once again. You know, I thought with Rainbow Bridge 3 he put out one of his more consistent takes, and I thought that with his last album, Screaming Forest, you know, it was a real inconsistent mess. This album's certainly better, but he still hasn't reached that level that I know that he can get at. I mean, most of the material here, it's bangers. Bangers that aren't going to be for everyone. Excessive beats. All the DJ drops. If you're not a fan, this is probably not going to win you over, but I just wish he can get a little bit more consistent. I just wish that. It's so close, but for now, I'm feeling a very strong 6 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.